Have you ever seen a government or company come up with a brilliant idea, but ending up creating more problem than solution? Well, over 100 years ago in the streets of Hanoi, the French colonizers tried to wipe out rats. Instead of solving the problem, they created something worse: rat farmers. Yes, people literally started breeding rats to make money off the government's plan. This story is known as the Hanoi Rat Massacre, or what economists today call the rat effect. And trust me, it's one of the strangest, funniest, and most important economic lessons you'll ever hear. The year is 1902. Imagine Hanoi. Hot, humid, buzzing with activity. Rickshaws on the streets, French officers in white uniforms trying to make the city look more like Paris. One of their big projects? A modern sewer system. They thought it was progress. But hidden in those dark, wet tunnels was a new enemy, the black rat. Now, these weren't just creepy little pests stealing rice. These rats carried fleas that spread the bubonic plague, the same disease that had wiped out millions in Europe centuries earlier. The French administration in Hanoi panicked. They needed to act quickly. The plan looked clever on paper. Instead of wasting time collecting smelly rat corpses, the government told people, just bring us the tails, chop the tail, get your reward. Every tail meant cash. At first it seemed like genius. People lined up holding sacks of tails. The numbers were impressive. Thousands upon thousands were handed in. Officials congratulated themselves. They thought, we've beaten the rats. But they hadn't. Not even close. Here's where it all unraveled. First problem, people weren't killing the rats. They'd slice off the tail and let the rat escape. Why? Because a living rat could make more rats. More rats meant more tails. More tails meant more money. Second problem, entire villages around Hanoi started breeding rats. Think about that for a second. The government wanted to eliminate rats. Instead, they accidentally created rat farms. Third problem, the black market. Entrepreneurs, if you can call them that, began selling live rats to others. Those buyers would cut the tails, collect the reward, then release or even resell the rat. And finally, some hunters actually carried rats into Hanoi so they could chop off tails inside city limits, since that's where the bounty was valid. Imagine that, people literally importing rats into the city. By mid-1902, instead of fewer rats, Hanoi had more than ever before. The French realized they had been outsmarted. Their solution didn't just fail, it made things worse. The rat population exploded, the plague risk grew, and the sewer system became a symbol of colonial arrogance. Economists later gave this kind of disaster a name, a perverse incentive. That's when a policy encourages the exact opposite of what it was designed to do. Now, this isn't just a quirky story from Vietnam. Similar things happened elsewhere. In British-ruled India, officials offered money for dead cobras. People started breeding cobras for the bounty. When the program ended, they released the snakes. Result? Even more cobras. That's why today, stories like this are sometimes called the Cobra effect. You might be thinking, okay, rats, cobras, but what does this have to do with me? The truth? This happens all the time, even today. Healthcare. When doctors and hospitals get paid for the number of procedures, not patient health, people end up with unnecessary tests and treatments. Sales targets. When companies only reward hitting numbers, employees may cheat the system, lie to customers, or push bad products. Education. When schools are judged only by test scores, teachers may focus on test prep instead of real learning. The economist Milton Friedman once said, one of the great mistakes is to judge policies by their intentions rather than their results. And that's exactly the lesson of the Hanoi Rat Massacre. So, how do we avoid repeating these mistakes? First, don't chase quick fixes. The French could have improved sanitation, reduced food waste, and sealed off sewer entry points. Instead, they looked for shortcuts. Second, design incentives carefully. Reward real results, not fake symbols. Paying for tails was easy to cheat. Measuring actual rat populations would have been harder but more effective. Third, expect loopholes. Humans are creative. If there's a way to game the system, someone will find it. Leaders need to plan for that. Fourth, adjust quickly. Once it was obvious people were cutting tails and breeding rats, the French should have changed course immediately. But they dragged their feet. Here's the funny yet sobering part. This story isn't really about rats. It's about people, about how we respond to money, rules, and incentives. The Hanoi Rat Massacre shows us that people will always find a way to benefit themselves, even if it makes the bigger problem worse. And that's not because people are bad. It's because people are human. Albert Einstein once said, "The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing." The French looked on while tale after tale poured in, and by the time they understood, it was already too late. The rats had won. So the next time you hear about a new government program, a new corporate policy, or even a rule at school, ask yourself, will this really solve the problem, or will it just create a new one? History teaches us one thing. The easiest-looking solution is often the most dangerous. If this story made you think, hit that like button, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more strange and fascinating lessons from history and economics.